welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Gemini, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of January 2023. I hope you are well. Happy New Year. I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot for you today. If the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that is available at the end. That is the first link in the description box. The second link in the description box is to the 6-month overviews that I've done for each of the signs. They run from January to June, obviously. They're really quite thorough. They run to between 3 and 4 hours long, so if you're interested in finding out what the first half of 2023 has in store for you, let's go and check that out. And the last link, the third link in the description box, is to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix over on Circle. If you're interested in that, there's all sorts of stuff that doesn't get anywhere near YouTube on there. Feel free to go and check it out. There we go, nice big shuffle. So let's have a look and see what's going on with you, Gemini. Can I have 3 cards for Gemini, please? So in your recent past, we have the 9 of Wands. Current energy for Gemini, please. Fucking hell, these cards are all over the place today. Right, hang on. Alright, we have the Moon in your current energy. And what is coming towards Gemini? Fucking hell. We've got the Death card, Scorpio. I'll just flip this around so you can see that my camera is not straight again. There we go. Have the Page of Wands at the beginning of the deck. At the beginning of the deck, at the bottom of the deck, rather. How interesting. We should have 2 cards with that. A very similar moon. Very similar moon on it. As well as one of them being the actual moon. This is very interesting. It's quite dark, Gemini, which is quite interesting. You know, all of the cards have dark backgrounds on them here. It makes me feel like whatever is going on with you at the moment, it's running pretty deep. You know, there's a lot of internal stuff going on for you. So let's see why the 9 of Wands is here. We have the Devil, Capricorn energy, and we have 9 of Swords in reverse. Excellent. Tell me about the Moon, please. Got the King of Wands and the Queen of Swords. Tell me about the Death card, please. Have the 4 of Swords, 6 of Swords, and the Tower. Well, that is interesting. Not least because the Tower is appearing as a clarifier rather than as a main energy. Given something that has the power of the Tower. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Oh, my usual little coughing, like smoker's coughing grumble, has been replaced with an actual hacking cough, which is interesting. So, I think it's safe to say that whatever is going on with you at the moment, it is deeply internal. We have currently Mars and Mercury in retrograde at the moment, possibly something else as well, but I forget what it is. And so forward momentum is something that no one is really experiencing at this point. Everybody is being held still so that they can discover new insights, work things out that they maybe been wrestling with for a little while. Whenever this retrograde energy comes up, it's about stopping and checking where you are, checking where you've been, making sure you've done everything correctly. And it's a time for going within. It's a time for going in really, really deep. Now, we start off with the 9 of Wands. As I said, the fact that the Moon is there on both sides, and it's a waning moon, is interesting too. Again, very much associated with what is going on deep inside someone. And the 9 of Wands talks about boundaries, but it can also talk about resilience. The fact that it's numbered 9 at all, for me, I associate that with the individual. So we have the 9 of Swords here and the 9 of Wands, both speaking to currently a very internal, very personal experience that you have been having. The Devil is a card that often leans towards talking about the places where we feel stuck, the places where we feel trapped. And it's interesting how there's almost like this ladder imagery between the two cards here. They're from different decks, but the same is true. It's like you can choose to go up and connect with your subconscious, connect with that which you do not see, that which you cannot perceive with your five senses. It's something a little bit different. Intuition, right? Connection with your higher self. Or you can choose to descend the ladder down into something that is fearful and chaotic, right? And that would certainly be the case if we were looking at it like this here. But what's interesting for me is the fact that that Nine of Swords turned up in the reverse, because we have the ways in which you are stuck and trapped. We have the ways in which you are fearful. We have, your own internal monster that you have to face. But there is a lack of fear now with you, where there was fear before. I think for the Nine of Swords to turn up in the reverse, it has to, by extension, have been in the upright at some point before now. So what we've got is almost an understanding that you get to choose, Gemini. You get to choose whether you go up, you get to choose whether you go down. And what often will make or break that decision for you is whatever the devil is trying to whisper in your ear at any given point. Now, I think it's interesting that we've got the Three of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck there, because that talks about the ways that you cooperate and collaborate with other people, right? What it is that you choose to build. Let's have a look and see what we've got underneath there. We've got the Ace of Cups. And could it be that you've been suffering some sort of disappointment, Gemini? Could it be that there has been something kind of illusory about something that you've been involved with, whether it is a relationship or whether it's a situation, right? It'll be different for each of you. Because things seem to be freshening up. I think that's the best way I can describe what's going on here. There's a freshening up, there's a deepening of insight going on. And there's awareness of the movements of the devil and how he influences whether you go up the ladder or whether you go down. And what's really interesting for me about that is the level of self-awareness that is at play with you at the moment, in even just recognizing that the devil has an influence at all. It sounds ridiculous, but most people don't recognize the works of the devil. We've got the Queen of Cups and the Seven of Pentacles. And it goes back to this idea of there being disappointment that you have been fielding recently. You know, the Queen of Cups has you coming from that ever-loving and ever-giving place, and yet it has still led to this. And it's possibly because the giving has something else going on underneath it. Yeah, I feel like the way that you have been showing up in collaborative or cooperative situations is taking a subtle shift now. It's being subtly shifted from a point where you gave for the sake of giving, almost, leading to a situation whereby you are disappointed, disheartened, perhaps a little disillusioned, and recognizing the works of the devil in that. Now, it could be that you've been being manipulated. That could be something that you've seen. But it would be very easy to let the buck stop there with that. But you haven't done that. You've gone, how have I allowed this to happen? What is it that is within me that needs to give and give and give, regardless of whether there's any kind of level of reciprocation? And is that healthy for me to do so? Where does that come from? You know, this Ace of Cups underneath the Three of Pentacles feels like a stepping back and looking at the way that you show up in situations where you are working with other people. And when I say working, I mean that in the loosest sense. You know, anybody that you have an interaction with and you're building something with. We've got the Seven of Swords at the bottom of the deck here, and it does talk about deceit. I mean, actually, it talks about, this one particularly talks about castles in the sky, right? It's up on top of the cloud there. And so the question is, where have you deceived yourself? Where have you allowed the devil to get a foothold in and deceive you about something here? Have you been ignoring your more discerning abilities in favour of this need to give? And like I said, you're bringing it back to you over and over again, and that's why I really, really like what we have here in your present energy, because we've got the moon. You are looking for the things that are hidden. You're looking for the things that you have not seen, and I feel like they're things that you have not seen rather than things that have been deliberately obscured from you. Because you've taken that step beyond just blaming somebody else for something not going right and brought it into yourself, which, is a very wise way of doing things, I think. Tell me about the moon. Excuse me. 5 of Cups. Fucking hell. I'm not taking all of those because there's far too many cards. Put them in there. Tell me about the moon, please. Oh, I've got 2 anyway. I've got the 9 of Cups, so we've got the 3 of Swords. That's very interesting. So for me, the moon is the subconscious. And it has an illusory quality to it, just like the devil has too. Anything that is illuminated by moonlight is, by definition, going to be less able to discern the details than you would be if it was broad daylight. And sometimes imagination can form a part of that too. So, we see something that implies a thing, and then we fill in the details. Our brain fills in the gaps and shows us what we want to see. And I think that this is what you are specifically concerned with here at this point. What did you not see? What did you input instead of actually checking that the details were there? What is it about the way that your subconscious works that has you in this place where you would be a Queen of Cups, where you would give and give and give? The King of Wands is concerned with actions and the actions that we take. We notice that he's sitting here and he's looking back at something. He's looking back, I feel, at a 3 of Pentacles situation that has gone wrong somewhere. And more than that, he's looking at his actions. He might have his back to the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Swords here, but the Queen of Swords is actually processing the information that he is relaying about his behaviour. Like I said, it's very focused on you rather than looking for people to blame, which is incredibly evolved of you. Well done, I like that. We've got this 5 of Cups, 9 of Cups, and 3 of Swords. And there's something that makes my heart hurt just a little bit looking at that. Because the 9 of Cups, for me, is, it can talk about, your highest hopes and goals and dreams and aspirations. It's a card of contentment. It's a card of being happy with what you have, or being happy with the idea of going after a particular thing. The happiness is the important thing. The contentment is the important thing. But look how it's flanked here with issues of loss in the 5 of Cups and pure pain in the 3 of Swords. You seem to be trying to make sense of a lot of things here, and whether it is the tension between what you thought your emotional state was like and yet how easy it is compromised with that 5 of Cups and 3 of Swords on the side, or whether you've been being put through some sort of emotional test here, and what you've realised is that, as the results have come in, you've noticed that there are places where your emotional well-being is not quite as robust as you thought it was. Or maybe it's even talking to how you deal with situations when the Devil and the 7 of Pentacles and the 5 of Cups and the 3 of Swords raise their head then. I think you're analysing all of it. When you're Gemini, right, you're always going to be analytical about these things. It's interesting, my eldest son has his moon in Gemini, and it's so apparent when you meet him. So apparent. But the pair of us tend to think about things in a very similar fashion, and I can never work out why that was, because my moon's in Leo. We're both Leos, but his moon is in Gemini, mine is in Leo. And then I came across this some sort of conjunction on my North Node or some sort of thing, right? That effectively operates like a moon in Gemini. And I read those words and I was like, holy shit, there we go. I found the thing. This is why Jake and I are similar about the way that we think about emotional stuff. One of the biggest problems with that particular placement for him and for me is that we both have a tendency to analyze our emotions and try and work out what they mean rather than actually allowing ourselves to feel them. And it was so fascinating to me when I read that, because I'm wondering if this is a little bit of what is going on here. Particularly if your moon is in Gemini. Because I'm not sure that it isn't a way that we protect ourselves. We almost like swerve the emotions themselves and take up a position over here instead, so that we can look at the emotions, go, holy shit, well that's a fucking shit show down there. What's going on there, right? And we're actively doing something about it. It's about the processing. But what is the reason for the processing? Are you searching for understanding over feeling? I think that's possibly the case. Because when you seek to understand something, it is literally like you take yourself 90 degrees from the point of experience and a good 100 feet back, so you can see it in its entirety. Now that's really good for making sense of situations, particularly when it involves the behaviour of other people, and particularly when you're trying to navigate through something that's been very disappointing. But if the piece of the puzzle that you're looking for is how to process these emotions so you can let them go, I'm not sure that this is the way, Gemini. Because these cards are cards of deep, intense feeling. And I'm not sure that you can shelter yourself from what's starting to come up for you. I don't think it would be healthy for you to shelter yourself from it. It feels to me like it's something that you actually have to experience. And this is the other thing that the King of Wands talks about here. It's like active experience. This is how he gets to be the king. It's not by birthright or anything like that. There's a sense with all of the kings that they've worked their way up to the position that they're in. And with the King of Wands, it's always about getting in the middle of something and getting your hands dirty. It's not sufficient to be able to look at it from a distance, maybe poke it with somebody else's stick. You've actually got to be in there and feel it as well. So when we come into January, we have the Death card, which talks about transformation. And given the nature of all of the cards that we've talked about so far, I do feel that it is a deep transformation in you rather than something that is happening on the outside. But then, as I was wittering about the Tower, right at the beginning there, the energy of the Tower is usually such that it tends to be a main card, right? It doesn't tend to be a somewhat of a playing an adjacent role. It's like, no, hello, I'm the Tower, I'm here to fuck everything up. But it is in this case. So we have a big internal transformation, and then we have the Tower complementing that. And we also have it with the Four of Swords and the Six of Swords. Now, leaving aside the fact that there is a preponderance of swords right there, and that they're touching on the Three of Swords and the Queen of Swords, it's quite interesting, because this talks about healing, right? And it's even touching the Three of Swords here, and we go from the 3 to the 4. So there's a certain amount of sense that is made by that there, right? We go from that point where we understand the truth of something, the truth hits our heart and nothing can be the same again, to then this period of potential withdrawal, when we pull back just a little bit so that we can make sense of and process and heal from whatever has happened in the Three of Swords. But notice here that there's also this Queen of Swords is touching on this quite hard too. And it feels a little bit like you need to step your mind down, Gemini. I know what I'm asking, and those of you who watch the 6-month overviews, again, I should apologise profusely for saying all you need to do is control your mind. But there's definitely a step down of mental functions that is being asked of here, and it fits very nicely with what I was talking about before there, about remembering to feel the emotions and not get stuck in this constant cycle of analysis of the emotions themselves, because a Six of Swords is leaving something behind. So we've got a more restful mental state, we've got something being left behind, and then we've got this Tower here. Now, I feel like the Tower in this case is actually allowing you to make some quite dramatic changes. Well, there we go. We've got the Judgment card and we've got the Temperance card. You know, the Tower is given to be a sudden, shocking energy that comes from nowhere. We don't expect it, and it just tips everything upside down. But what it is in truth is a redirection. It's saying, no, Gemini, don't go that way, go this way. Now, the fact that it's coming out underneath the Death card, which is the transformation, right? We've got the transformation of mind right here, a stepping down of that, stepping away from the things that are churning you up and making you feel toward the Tower. I feel like you're bringing this Tower for other people, and it is by way of the decisions that you make when you allow yourself to heal. Because there's a strong indication that that is what you are going to allow yourself to do in January. Now, again, in the 6-month overviews, this was a theme that was coming up throughout the whole thing. And I jested and said, it's okay, you just got to control your mind, it's all sound. And then during the course, when I was looking at the month by month, it really struck me just how difficult it was, what I was asking you to do. And so I did apologise. But this feels like a very decisive step towards healing and balance and moderation, right? We've got decision making here, and when the Judgment card talks about decision making, it is life-changing decisions, which sits very nicely with the Tower, which also sits very nicely with Death. It starts internally first, and it's almost like it it ripples out to affect everything else around it. But I think that the crux point that you come to, right, the real nub at the centre, is where you've tried to think your way out of pain rather than just feeling it, healing it, and releasing it. And so whilst January might not be the month where you really, really master this, it feels like there is a determination from you that this is to occur. The determination, I feel, is sufficient to start this process of transformation going on. But it's taking you towards the Tower because you are going to start shaking things up. Now, the way that you might shake them up might be nothing to do with going out and throwing grenades around or anything like that. It might just be showing up in the world in a different form of Gemini than you have done before. You know, it was either last month or the month before, so it was either December or November. I feel almost certain that it was one of those, where the question that came up was, why are you stifling your own voice? Like, you're a sign that is, that rules Mercury. You're all about communication. And this feels like a different kind of communication that you're taking on board here. The ability to be able to use. And I don't know what that means, Gemini. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. There's something very, very powerful happening here with you at this time. We've got the Three of Wands at the bottom of the deck here, so this is, this is what you do. For me, it's a low-level card of manifestation, actually, right? And the Lover's card, which is the card of Gemini, is a high-level one. But it's such because in this card, we have the preceding card's energy of a crossroads and making decisions and feeling your way around where it is that you want to go. And then with the three, we've actually got this being put in motion. Now Mercury is in retrograde and Mars is in retrograde, and I wonder if that retrograde energy is helping you get some insight into what happened in the past, what your part was in it, how you can prevent it happening again, but also getting an insight into some sort of old hurt, some old pain that is coming up to the surface. Because there's something very, very restful about that Four of Swords. And it feels like a determination to be restful, a determination to leave some things behind. We're not going to overthink it. We're going to leave some of this shit behind, because there's a point of focus for you, and it is the Tower. So you're bringing the Tower to yourself in some way or another. But with the corollary that whatever ripples out from that is going to change everything else outside of you too. This is very, very interesting, Gemini. It's very nuanced. I mean, it usually is with you, because your mind is so restless that the first most obvious answer is not the one for you, right? You've got to consider it from all of the different angles. But I wonder if in this case it's the simplicity that has had you confused. Because I feel like you're accepting that and getting ready to do something else. What do we have underneath here? Seven of Swords again, and the Emperor. You know, for some of you, it might well be about the way that you allow yourself to be controlled. And you didn't think you did, but then you've been presented with incontrovertible evidence for that being the case. And it's like, right, well, how do I change this? This is really interesting. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. We're going to pull this apart a little bit. We'll start looking for some specifics, because it's quite rangy, this. But I feel like that's probably a reflection of your mindset at the moment. The hunting for the answers for stuff. So, if you would like to join me over there, you are very, very welcome. If not, no shade. I completely understand. it should be a really interesting month. I don't think it should be a hard month. I think that it should be interesting, and it certainly seems to be preparing the seedbed for something to get dropped into it. Right? You can't go about the business of creating space in your life without something coming in to occupy that space. And you seem intuitively to know that that's what's about to occur. Very interesting. All right. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.